yesterday, the first official early signing period began. Kind of what's the thoughts, what's the rumblings out there? Give us your observation from an overall standpoint and then from an Alabama standpoint.
Yeah, I think overall it was a pretty good day for Alabama. I know some Alabama fans will probably disagree. It kind of went back and forth with some of the stuff that was getting put out there as far as where they stood in the rankings and kind of what was happening with their class. They signed two really good players. They got two really good new commitments. They signed 15 players. And they got Christian Barmore, the four-star defensive tackle, committed yesterday morning, signed in the afternoon. And then, obviously, the big one of the day is five-star defensive end Yawi Anoma, who committed in the afternoon and signed. So, two really good players. They got 15 guys signed overall. 3 guys did not sign in Quay Walker, Vernon Jackson, and Michael Parker, which were all kind of expected. We reported on Tuesday that Vernon Jackson was expected to sign. He went ahead and held off. He's going to take some visits next month and sign in February. Same thing with Quay Walker. Michael Parker, obviously, we've talked about him a few times. He's a potential blue shirt, so he might not even sign at all come February. But overall, I think it was a good day for Alabama. I think they definitely, Nick Saban said in his press conference last night that they've done a good job of identifying kind of what their needs are, and going forward it's pretty clear where they're gonna hit. And I think that's defensive back and defensive line, and obviously they're going to continue to look for a quarterback as well. Nadab Joseph, we all saw last night, flipped to Georgia and signed with Georgia. That was kind of a weird situation.
Hey, let me. Can I interrupt you there? Okay. Is that not the shocker of the recruiting? I mean, explain that to me. I mean, the kid was committed to one school for a year, flips to Alabama, and in less than a week, including a debt period, he goes somewhere else. Yeah,
I think there's a lot more to it. I'm not sure all the details of it. Bama Online, our publisher Tim Watts posted a little bit about it last night, about whether or not there was a letter of intent sent to him from Alabama. I'm not sure all the details at this point. It's still kind of fresh, but I don't think Alabama was completely blindsided by it as far as it happening. I know fans see it and you lose one of your cornerback commits to the position of need to a rival school in Georgia. It's not ideal looking, but I don't think it completely caught Alabama off guard. I mean, I honestly wouldn't panic. I mean, obviously he's a very good player. He's a guy Bama liked that could have probably eventually signed in February, but I think it also kind of gives them the opportunity to really push for the guys they have on the board going forward, the 5-star corners out of South Florida. It opens up one more spot to where they have a good opportunity to kind of really sell that depth chart, really sell the early playing time pitch with that open spot. So obviously, I mean, it was a surprise. I think it caught a lot of people off guard. We learned early in the day he wasn't going to sign, but we figured he was just going to wait and probably sign in February or enroll early, as he had said he planned to do. Then obviously we saw the evening that he flipped and signed. So a little bit of a shocker, but like I said, I don't think it really caught Alabama off guard. And there's more into that, I think, on our board over at Bama Online that I can't go into detail on. But
so do you think Alabama backed off on an early commitment from him? Do you think they potentially got some news from some guys that are still going to sign in February?
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of. I'm not sure what all went into it. I don't think they backed off. I think they were just, and I'm not sure whether it happened or not. But there was some talk that a national letter of intent was not sent to him, and I don't know what it was for. Whether it was for academics and just kind of wanted to see some more out of the classroom from him before letting him sign, or something else. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay.
Tim Watts, our publisher, posted that there was not a letter of intent signed or sent to him. So maybe we'll learn the reasoning going forward. But like I said, I don't think it was a huge shock to Alabama that happened.
Well, that makes me feel better. Okay, I'm sure. And we got Pat on the line with us, so we're going to bring Pat in. He has a question for you as well. Pat, you're on with
Hey, the host this morning has been preaching doom and gloom, and he does not realize that we signed 2 bookends.
Hold on, Pat. I'm the host of this show. I have not preached doom and gloom. I preached the fact.
I've been listening to you all morning. We talking. Well, Kirby's taking over. Blah blah blah.
Kirby is taking over.
Hey, let me finish my thought though. I called y'all 2 months ago and told y'all about Anoma, about how fast he was. We have on the other side of the defensive line will be one Jerez Parks, who also signed yesterday, for lack of a better term. Yeah, he may have counted against last year's class. However, he signed his letter of intent yesterday. Hey, and those 2 at 6'5" are going to make bookends. Hey, and Hank's been on top of things this morning. He's absolutely correct. Hey, there's 2 big-time corners down in South Florida. Hey, but I got another question for Hank before I go, and I'm talking about, and you were talking about in-state people. I'm talking about out-of-state people. I'm more interested in Devon Williams out of California. He is one of the most dynamic athletes I have seen today. What does Hank think?
All right, you have to hold on, Pat. Go ahead, Hank. About what did you say, Devon? What Walker?
No, Devon Williams.
Williams.
I think Alabama loves that kid. They saw him last summer. I mean, it seemed like Alabama was more involved with him last summer. Then things kind of dropped off. Obviously, he's a kid from California, so a little ways away, but that hasn't really been an issue in the past for Alabama recruiting out there. We'll see if something happens with him. I think I haven't checked on him in a while just because his name hasn't come up. I think Oregon's obviously a factor. I think USC in it for him as well. Mm-hmm. So that's a guy I'd have to check on. But, yeah, I mean, as far as the South Florida cornerbacks, too, I mean, those guys, Patrick Surtain and Tyson Campbell, both going to visit next month. And I think, obviously, Bama's going to push for them. They want to add more cornerbacks to the class, and those guys are the priority targets, as well as Isaac Taylor-Stewart, the other cornerback of California.
Look, Hank, if you could please tell the host that, recruiting is a process, and Nick has this under control. I haven't given up on Coach. Okay?
Hey, Pat, let me address you. I said Nick Saban in Alabama has had a great class, but you cannot look and say 0 from Georgia, 1 from Louisiana, and 0 from Texas is not a big issue when there was kids that we wanted from all of those states. Hey, listen. The only way you're going to take down Nick Saban is if you beat him in recruiting. And on yesterday, we see that's the difference. I'm a Crimson Tide guy, Hank, Pat, but I'm also a realist. And what Kirby Smart did on yesterday was Nick Saban. If it was Nick Saban, we'd be talking about him being the king of college football. Thanks, Pat.
But we signed bookends to take it to the bank.
We better get some guys between those. We better get some books between those. And that's what I'm going to next with Hank. We better get some books between the bookends.
Thank you, Martin Houston.
All right.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Pat. Hey, Hank, okay, we signed bookends. But bookends is not our need area. We need defensive linemen, and we need DBs. And we did not get – we got one yesterday, but we lost a couple, and we've lost out on a couple. And to me, Hank, my concern is this. D-line is a weakness of depth and experience and a great need, and we're not knocking out home runs. What are you hearing in terms of moving forward? Is the Bobby Brown coming back online? Is that a possibility? What's going on with that?
Yeah, Bobby Brown's an interesting guy. He's a kid that committed to A&M over Alabama after leaning to Alabama for a long time in October. Bama kept recruiting him. Nick Saban went in home with him late last month. Tosh Chapoy went back 2 more times after that. He last night kind of after all that Zab Joseph stuff went down and there was a lot of talk about what was going on. Bobby Brown decommits from Texas A&M and kind of a glimmer of hope for Alabama fans getting another big-time player kind of reignited there. But I think he's a kid that is close to making a decision. I would not be surprised to see him decide and sign in the early signing period. There's 2 more days of it. Everyone kind of forgets that yesterday was signing day, but it goes on through tomorrow. And he's a kid. We're not sure when he's gonna announce, but I think my gut feeling, and from talking with people on our A&M site, also reported that there's a chance he announces on Friday, tomorrow. But whether he signs or not, that's another thing. But I think Alabama's in a good spot to land him. I think he decommitted from Texas A&M with intentions to commit to Alabama. That's just my opinion, just from talking with people close to him and kind of people who are near the situation. And I think Bama's in a good spot to land him, which would be pretty huge considering, like you just said, obviously they're needed defensive line. He's probably arguably the defensive lineman with the highest ceiling in the class. Christian Barmer's obviously up there too. And then a guy like Tyler Friday. I mean, he visited last weekend on an official visit. He has Bama probably in his top group right now. I think Bama blew him away. We reported that on Bama Online earlier this week with the visit. So, I mean, they're still in good shape. Obviously, Barmore is a really good addition. They have him signed. Stephon Wynn, they have him signed. They have those the bookends in a good spot as well. But and then, cornerback. I think it was huge just getting the three guys they did get signed. Getting Josh Jobe signed, I think, is really big.
Yes.
I thought he was a kid that might be a little bit more dramatic towards the end and maybe not sign a national letter of intent and take his recruitment into January. But getting him to sign and getting him officially in the class, I think, was a really big deal. And obviously, you can't discount Jalen Elmore Davis and Savion Smith and what those guys bring to the table. Savion's already on campus practicing. So I think that they have a good base of corners, and Nick Saban addressed that last night. And I think if they can land Tyson Campbell or Isaac Taylor Stewart or Patrick Surtain or two of those guys, I mean, that's a really, really good class and a really, really good way of addressing the need of that position.
Yeah. Speaking with Hank South 247, Bama Online Recruiting. Hey, listen, for all of you, I'm not doom and gloom over Alabama's class. I'm just saying that the landscape is changing. And with that landscape changing, you have to make assessments at one period of the recruiting process and then make another assessment at the end. In the early signing period, the king of the early signing period is clearly Kirby Smart and what he was able to do. There was something. I got two more questions for you, Hank. One guy,
Sure.
Ohio State, Parsons. What's going on with that recruitment? Because he was a commit defensive end type player that was big on Ohio State, but some type of access. Speaking with Herb Street, is he back out on the market? Has Alabama tried to get back in on him to potentially add to this D-line crew?
Alabama liked him as a running back and an outside linebacker, but he's a kid. There's been a lot of talk about his off the field, kind of not as him as a player. Obviously, he's a tremendous player, but more off the field questions character wise.
Okay,
I'm not sure all the details behind it. I don't want to go in and slander a kid without really knowing full well. But I know Alabama really hasn't recruited him much in the past few months. He was going to take an official visit at some point in November. We kept talking to his dad. That kind of never really just got set. So I think it was pretty clear that Alabama kind of went in a different direction. And Ohio State had kind of a weird thing with him as well, where it came out yesterday that I think they had to back off because Kirk Herbstreit,
yes,
Kirk Herbstreit during College Game Day, and there was a whole thing with that. But
yep.
I think, I think he signed with Penn State yesterday. I could be wrong.
Okay.
So I think he's already off the board. But
okay,
I know Penn State was trending for him.
All right, then one last question, kind of a composite question. Auburn signs 5 Alabama kids. Alabama signs 1. Some of the listeners and followers on Facebook asking questions about, is it talent down in Alabama? What's the 4 or 5-star count in Alabama? So where does Alabama go within the state? I know there's a couple kids who want to come here and may meet a need. What's Alabama going to do in state to finish out the year?
Yeah, I think the one guy in state, I do think it's talent-wise, overall for 2018 class, it's not as good as it was last year, at least. 2017, that class was pretty phenomenal. But going forward in this year's class, I think the one guy to watch that'll be interesting is Connis Miller, another guy at a position of need. He did not sign with Auburn yesterday. He committed to Auburn. He's been still listening to other programs like Oregon, Tennessee. Alabama obviously still really likes him. He seems pretty firm with his commitment, but he's not. I think it says something if you don't sign early and you're committed. Clearly you're thinking
right
about something.
Right.
So I think he's one to watch maybe. As far as guys, Jalen Cunningham, I believe, signed with Ole Miss yesterday. Sorry, it was like 16 hours nonstop yesterday. So I didn't think Jalen Cunningham ended up signing. I think he did. But he's committed to Ole Miss, I believe. And then there's Harold Joyner's been a guy we've talked about for a while. I don't think Bama is really going to push for him after landing Jerome Ford at running back. So I think Jalen Elmore is a good addition. Andreas Fox committed to Stanford yesterday, so I think that was good for him. I think he was a kid we've been following for a while. He's gone back and forth between a handful of schools, but he committed to Stanford. So I think Connis Miller is the one guy to watch. I think Asa Martin signed with Auburn yesterday, so he's off the board. So yeah, I think defensive line Connis Miller, in-state wise, is the guy to watch. We'll see if anything happens late, but I think that's the guy to kind of keep an eye on.
Hey, I know that there's some coaches that don't like an early signing period. There's probably some recruiters like yourself that don't like it, but it's definitely job security, Hank. So I know you still got a lot of work to do to get caught up. Thank you for getting up with us this morning, and we'll catch up with you on next week. Tell our listeners how they can stay in touch with you.
Yeah, you can follow us along on BamaOnline.com and on Twitter. I tweet all my stuff out at HankSouth247. You can follow me there as well.